So in the time when Flores and I used to work for Microsoft, we more or less made the paperwork ourselves with the help of our internal resources at Microsoft. But that has been changing. So Microsoft has outsourced more or less all of the contractual paperwork requirements for them internally. And that has caused in longer waiting times internally. So we've seen cases where Microsoft was pushing clients, we need to have an agreement now, 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 because otherwise we will not get the paperwork done in time. And we even have seen waiting times 2 or 3 weeks before the paperwork was finished after the verbal agreement. So that's really a big thing for me personally, because such a professional organization like Microsoft, they should take care of that and make sure that they can provide documents within working days, if not the same working day, if you are handling a multi-million negotiation. But yeah, that was really disappointing, and especially where the cases where the commercial impact for Microsoft was low. So, for instance, you were negotiation what was going on in June, and you had to finalize something for July. They would not provide you the paperwork until July because they want to prevent in stuffing their internal department that's making all of the paperwork, and they want to prevent queues. Very surprising for us, and we were confronted with that in the last few months. So I think that they implemented that a few months ago, actually. And that's even more silly because that's for Microsoft. It's the last quarter is the most important time of the year. So we've seen a lot of stressful cases where the paperwork was not ready in time, and full of mistakes, by the way. But we will get to that later on.
Yeah, so this is very frustrating for customers of Microsoft as well, because they're dealing with LSPs and the whole process is a black box. So they're not able to become uh, transparent on how and what is happening, because they just need to request these processes with the Microsoft subsidiary, and they have to create the paperwork, and they're waiting and they're waiting and they're not being updated. So they're feeding, the LSP is feeding back to the customer. Yeah, it's in the process, but we don't know when we can finalize it. And when we were dealing with the US customer, the process over there is even more rigid and strict, and that led to some difficult situations, because the customer that we were dealing with had their fiscal year end at the end of June as well, like Microsoft. So they wanted to have an invoice for their renewal in the month of June because they had budget left in their fiscal year. And it slipped out of the year because Microsoft couldn't deliver the paperwork in time. Microsoft really doesn't care. But for a company like that, missing it was for them a significant amount of money, and missing that in their fiscal year and having to move it to the next fiscal year is very difficult. And these situations, you see them arising more and more, leading to a lot of frustration and a lot of issues with Microsoft.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's quite annoying because Microsoft technology is improving and improving, but their contractual backend is still from from the Middle Ages.
Right.
Causing in situations like this. So very frustrating.